What's up? I'm Solomon, and better known as Lamion in game, and this is playing Basic League of Legends in 2026, a guide to improving at League of Legends, and this is the second episode, early game and laning. So what is the early game? So early game is roughly the first 10 to 12, maybe 15 minutes of gameplay, and this is the first phase of the game that everybody's got to go through. This is going to be primarily focused around laners right now. And this is going to cover champions. Some people define the early game as like levels 1 through 6. I kind of consider the early game. It can, depending on the elo and depending on multiple factors, it can kind of expand itself out to level 9, which is roughly around the like 10-minute mark, the 12-minute mark. This covers the laning phase, very important. It covers the first dragon, which is at 5 minutes, and if you kill it off the timer, we'll get to second dragon. But it also covers the void grubs, which spawn at 8 minutes, and then the second dragon, which can come up back up at 10 minutes. So like the second, assuming that you took dragon at first at the off rip at 5 minutes, which doesn't happen all the time. You kind of have right out of laning phase that second dragon. A lot of times, dragon gets taken at like around the 7-ish minute mark because that's um, maybe actually a little sooner than that now because the clear speeds changed for the junglers. But for the longest time, it was kind of like the first dragon kind of sits there for maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes before somebody goes like gets an advantage enough to like go take dragon. Um, so the early game kind of covers this broad spectrum of like you're covering your laning, so your champion mastery with like the leveling up, and part of the reason why I say to level 9 too is because a lot of times level 9, so level 9 is the first time that you can have an ability completely maxed. So this is important for certain characters like Syndra because her level 5 Q, like having 5 levels in Q, means that she can get part of her passive up, which increases her damage, which is really important. There's a lot of champions where it's like, I'm getting my important ability. This is when Ezreal gets his Q to level 5, and he has maximum, cooldown reduction on that from just the ability, right? So level 9 is one of the first initial, obviously level 6 when you like get your R. Um, there's actually a ton of different times where like certain characters spike and like people have level 2 spikes, etc. But like when you're playing basic League of Legends, you want to kind of really focus around honestly the level 2 spike all in. That's kind of tough, but also the level 6 spike and the level 9 spike. That's something to be thinking about. And that level, like getting that during the laning phase, is really important. Um, and then the early game also covers the first couple of objectives that spawn in the early game because there's no other opportunities to really get them. So like the dragons will sit there if nobody takes them, that's fine. But void grubs will disappear. So like grubs is one of those nice to have kind of objectives. It's not super big, but it causes a fight most of the time, and it's important to be there for that fight if you want to help your team. Right? Obviously, if you're like bot lane, maybe the support can roam up like certain timings with like really far thinking ahead supports. They'll time their back to then go show up at grubs. That's a very common thing. But it's not a requirement that bot lane shows up. But this is a lot of like a mid prio and a top prio kind of objective. But it's just important to be aware of it, right? Like this is the early game. This is what is going to be happening during the early game. You're definitely getting the first dragon, and you're definitely looking at void grubs, and you're coming out of the early game looking at that second dragon a lot of times. Or if you got it off spawn, if you had like a new jungle and you got first dragon like kind of off spawn, then you're looking at the second dragon as well, which is big. Um, so before we go right into the laning phase, I want to talk a little bit. I want to introduce this concept of the mental stack. So no credit to me at all. I did not come up with this explanation, but it's something that I feel is incredibly important. This is kind of our high level concept for the video. We're going to get into a lot more specifics and micro, but this is important because the mental stack, which was introduced to me by the Broken by Concept League of Legends podcast, which I will have a link to in the description, because these guys are awesome. You guys should definitely check them out. I'll have the video for their description of the mental stack, like where they cover the mental stack, um, in the description. So definitely check that out. That's super worth a watch. Honestly, all of the podcasts are worth a watch. It's a great time. You just play it in the car while you're driving or something. But the mental stack. What is the mental stack? Well, the mental stack is the total number of things a player is consciously thinking about at the same time while they are playing the game, like while they are laning, right? So um, I'm not sure where I remember this from, but it's something like the human brain can grasp 7 things at the same time, right? So like you can be thinking of a video game and you can be thinking of your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or you can be thinking of like what you're going to eat tomorrow or like what you're going to eat for dinner, and you can like roughly the human mind psychologically can cover kind of about 7 things is what I'm not sure where I'm pulling that from. I've definitely heard it a bunch of times though. um, and you can think of this like why most common phone numbers are like an area code with 7 numbers, right? Because it's like that's why people are able to remember phone numbers pretty easily, right? Because it's 7 numbers. So the higher your mental stack, the more you're closer to that roughly 7 number mark, the worse your decision making mechanics and consistency becomes, right? So it's a very simple concept. It's just how many things are you actually thinking about at the same time, right? Which is crazy. It's literally insane. Like this is not something that really gets discussed a lot about like in other games, but in a game like in MOBAs specifically, it's crazy valuable to know about this concept. Um, so you gotta understand that the mental stack is like it's like your list of things that you need to be focusing on, right? Um, and your mental stack comes with experience, right? When you first load up your first ever game of League of Legends, you're thinking about how am I leveling up my abilities? How am I moving my character? Am I moving my character correctly? What the heck are these minion things that keep spawning? What the heck is a tower, right? Your mental stack is crazy overloaded. But when you play 30 games, now what a tower is no longer on your mental stack, right? Like the concept of the tower has been internalized and thrown into your unconscious, and so now you don't it's not on your mental stack anymore. Like you don't even have to think about it. But like when you first start playing, your tower stack, your mental stack might be, am I walking into tower range here, right? Like if you're just start playing, you might be thinking like, okay, well I need to hit this guy, but I need to not walk into tower range, right? And that's why a lot of the times in the AI versus the co-op AI bot games that you have to play when you first start playing League of Legends, um, that's why the tower ranges are there, because it's like it's helping prepare your mental stack to understand. It's helping prepare your unconscious to understand what the range of the tower is naturally, so that way later on when you're playing a normal game against actual people, you don't have to. It's already been internalized, right? It's already off your mental stack. It's completely integrated into you as a person, into your unconscious. So then you don't even have to think about it, and it never appears on your mental stack again, right? Except for like very niche cases like when you're diving or something. But that's just like one example of the mental stack, and it also is important because players who have played longer inherently have better mental stacks, and it's just a time thing. I promise you, it's not you're not getting skill diff. It's just like one guy who's played League of Legends for a year and one guy who's played League of Legends for 5 years. That dude's the 5 year player. His mental stack is insane compared to the 1 year player, right? Because that 5 year player has 5 years of playing against these champions to internalize. Like if you're playing against a Blitzcrank in lane, like it's going to be a common example, or a Thresh, or or a Pyke, or a Nautilus, somebody that hooks, right? Your mental stack of how to avoid, like when you're a new player, part of your mental stack is going to be how do I avoid, like part of it is going to be constantly thinking about how do I avoid getting hooked? Okay? Where do I need to stand to avoid getting hooked? And that kind of goes back to the first episode where it's like you need champion mastery, you need to understand what the champions do. And when I was saying that, I was actually kind of hinting at this concept of the mental stack, right? So the 5 year player, his mental stack, his understanding of how to avoid getting hooked by Blitzcrank is already internalized, right? He has had hundreds of games where he knows where he's been hooked or where he hasn't been hooked, and he subconsciously knows where to stand in the game to avoid getting blitzcrank hooked. And he knows what happens when a blitzcrank starts running towards him, and speeds up, hits his W, and starts running at him. He knows that means the blitzcrank is going to come to try to hook him. Okay? That is not even on his conscious mental stack. Okay? That's not one of the 7 things he's thinking about. It's so internalized already that he doesn't even have to think about it. Meanwhile, the guy who's been playing for like 6 months to a year, okay, maybe that's not the case. Maybe that guy's only played 10 games with Blitzcrank in them, right? And you kind of get the sense of internalization because you'll play against 10 games against Blitzcrank and maybe 10 games against Thresh and maybe 10 games against Nautilus and 10 games against Pyke, right? And you'll kind of get the feeling of like, okay, this is what a hook champion looks like, right? So it's not like you're never gonna figure it out fast. That's not the case. And people have different capabilities when it comes to mental stack, just talent, how they're born, etc. Like what their mind is able to comprehend. But over time, I guarantee you, your mental stack will improve. So one of the biggest hurdles for me when I first started playing League of Legends was understanding warding, and having warding on my mental stack, and then also looking actually at the map, right? When you first start, a lot of people have trouble understanding words and understanding looking at the map. And somebody who's played a long time, they don't have trouble doing that because they've internalized in their mental stack enough times to like casually look down at the minimap every 3 seconds, or even when they're CSing, or even when they're doing, X, Y, or Z, or even when they're in a team fight to go see if there's somebody side laning, right? That has been so internalized in their mental stack that they don't even have to think about it. They just do it, right? So the mental stack is something that constantly improves as you play. So I would say there's like a long-term player mental stack, and then there's also the in-game, what am I consciously thinking about mental stack? And that kind of caps out at 7. Um, and it also changes. The conscious mental stack should change throughout the game. When you're in the early game and when you're laning, your mental stack looks way different than late game or mid game, right? Because in the laning phase, your mental stack is like, and we'll go over this in the laning phase too. We'll go over this twice real quick. So like in the early game, your mental stack is going to look like CSing, trading, where's the jungler at, etc. Right? And like when is the objective spawning, and then your mid game is going to be like, when am I getting my back timings in, where is the enemy jungler, where's the enemy support, because those guys are going to be the fastest move speed and they're going to be running at me from an unvision, what kind of vision do we have, right? Like the mental stack is going to change from the early game to the mid game. And then late game, a lot of the mental stat gets shifted towards team fighting. Like, okay, how am I going to play this team fight? What kind of champion abilities do I need to be watching out for? Does Vigar have ultimate? Does Kai'Sa have ultimate? Um, is Orianna ultimate up? Right? Like those are the mental stack is going to change. Your conscious per game mental stack is going to change over the course of the game, right? Um, with that being said, I think I spent enough time on the mental stack. Definitely go check out. Hold on. The Broken by Concept podcast. Definitely go check them out. They're awesome. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, and specifically this, was introduced to me by Broken by Concept. So you need to go check them out. It's totally worth your time. It's a great podcast. I just realized that my animation screwed up on this, but we're going to roll with it. Okay, so the laning phase, right? Laning phase. What is your goal in the, like, we're not going to define laning phase because we already kind of did that a little bit. We defined early game, and it's laning phase is part of the early game. So what are your goals? What are your actual goals in the laning phase, right? Like, what are you trying to do? Consciously, what are you trying to do in the laning phase? Well, number one is you are not dying. This is in order, by the way. This is in order of importance. Number one, do not die. Dying in laning phase is the easiest way to lose a game. Okay, those Broken by Concept guys, they are master challenger tier players, grandmaster, just amazing players, right? Top 0.001% of the player base, and they do reviews. Okay, they do reviews on people's gameplay and everything, and they have this concept called the end of review, right? So it's like they're going into the review, you paid however much money you paid for them to watch your review, and you get 5 minutes into the game and you died in laning phase, and they said, end of review. The game's over now. Okay? You gave up such a crazy advantage to the enemy team by dying in laning phase that this game is not even worth looking at. That's how this is a tough game. This is a tough game. Okay? Number one priority, do not die. Okay? The giving a 300 gold depends on stuff. But giving a 300 gold and possibly a 2-wave, maybe even 3 waves if the guy's really good and knows what he's doing, experience gap to the other guy makes your lane completely unplayable 90% of the time, unless you're like a hard counter into them, right? So being down 2 levels is fucking awful in this game. Being down CS is not as bad. In my experience, I rather be down 300 gold to a guy and have the same level of experience than be down a level to the guy and have 300 gold on. Like the levels are so important. Um, so in order of priority, don't die. Don't die. If the cannon minion if he will kill you, if your opponent will kill you in lane because you went to go auto attack a cannon minion, don't do it. It's not worth it. You just take the L. Okay, you take the loss there. You take the loss of 40 gold. The person that you are playing against, the other human being on the other side of the screen, has unfortunately built enough of an advantage to the point where if you take that CS, you're gonna die and you're gonna throw the game away. Okay, that's just the reality. Like and that's going to happen almost every game. I promise you that's going to happen almost every game. There are going to be times in every game where you need to make a decision between do I try to go for this farm or not? Okay? And the answer should be 80% of the time no, right? And that's just like, when you actually start consciously thinking about that, like obviously get CS. Like I'm not saying don't CS. Do your best to get as much CS as possible. But please, when you get that gut feeling of like, oh, I really want to get the cannon minion, but I have to walk in range for it. Don't, bro. It is the number one killer. It's the number one. I swear, cannon minions are the number one killers in laning phases, bro. Don't do it. Okay. So then, in order of importance, CS/trading opportunities, and this is heavily dependent on your champion mastery and your champion, like in your matchup. Okay, so 99% of the time, CS way more important than your trading opportunities. Okay, um, especially in the early game. But if you're a level 2 Renekton, or like if you're a level 1 Renekton and you're about to hit level 2, maybe you do actually give up because you're still standing there. So like if you don't get the gold for killing the minion, that can sometimes be okay. Because if you're hitting level 2 first and you're gonna all in the guy, if you're a Renekton with Flash Ignite and they're a Nasus, which is like a very straightforward like early game, like Renekton has a ton of kill pressure at level 2, Nasus should respect that. But if let's just say they're bronze players and he's not respecting that, okay? That Renekton, maybe he doesn't exactly kill the minion and he uses that opportunity because like he's walking away from the minion because he knows the minion's gonna die and he's in experience range, so he hits level 2 and then he all ends with ignites and gets a kill. Okay, that's when your CS is worth less than the trading opportunity, right? Don't If you can just get free CS, okay, that is like gold level. That will get you to gold. Okay, if you can just get CS and not die, okay, you're already a gold player. Period. Right? That over the iteration, that information and that concept and that skill set, that talent of not dying in lane and getting CS consistently over a 100 games, I guarantee you'll get to gold. It's not it's a really great concept, okay? It is so fundamental. That is like the most fundamental thing in League of Legends. So don't look down at it. It is that important. First thing, don't die. Second thing, get CS. And depending on the champion and the matchup, look for the trading opportunities, okay? And we're gonna in a later video probably we're going to go over trading opportunities in the micro. Like we're gonna take this champion and this champion and we're gonna be like, hey, this is an example of what a good trade looks like. We're gonna go over that, but for now we're still talking about the early game. And then you want to build advantages, okay? So this is your goal in the laning phase. Don't die. CS, build advantages over the other player that you were playing against or the other 2 players in bot lane that you were playing against, right? So what do advantages look like? Okay, which is my auto filled stuff that I didn't animate. So And one thing that I'm realizing is CS lead. That's like should be number one right there. Advantages include number one, CS lead. Okay, having I think it's like 12 minions is so like roughly a wave. And it changes throughout the game because gold increases, and then especially if you have the bot quest. But it's like 125 gold is what the average wave comes out to. If you go onto the wiki on League of Legends, you say how much is a wave of minions worth? It's like 125 gold. So and a wave of minions is 6 CS. Okay, so over 3 waves and 1 cannon minion, you're looking at 300 gold. Well over 300 gold. Maybe you're looking at like 400 gold. Because it's like 125 times 3, blah blah. That's 375 plus the cannon minion is like 45. So you're looking at like 400 gold. Okay, that's what three. Think about that. That's what 3 waves of minions is worth. Almost 400 gold. Okay, that's a shitload of gold. That's an amp tome, right? Like let's put it in perspective. That's an amp tome. Okay, but that is a comprehensible advantage that you can have for free if the guy lets you get better CS than him. So CS lead number one, Uno, right? Um, and then number two advantages include um, advantages in laning phase also include I have wards down in important areas that the other enemy opponent didn't put down in my important areas, like the jungle, or they warded for a gank, or they swept and they made sure that the bush was unclear, and now the jungler has a free gank, right? So that's one advantage. These are the small advantages that you can build to. These are the small advantages that you can build to help you win later on in the game because you had these, or in the laning phase and later on in the game, especially when it comes to like experience gap and gold gaps, um, to win the game and to win laning phase, to win your lane, right? One of those is having the bush swept, so that way the jungler doesn't even have to worry about being seen on vision, and now he can just walk right into the lane and gank your guy, and now you have a fucking one game because you're fed, right? Another thing is like putting a dude, the biggest thing, especially in mid lane, the biggest thing ever is like putting a ward down on their enemy raptors and knowing jungle timings. Like that's so important. It's so good to be able to get a ward down on raptors, like getting a ward down on a jungler timing, or even just having wards. Like in bronze and silver and iron, okay, just having the wards down means that your team has more information than the other team. Okay, your vision, you can vision diff people. Okay, and this was such a huge thing in like season 3, season 4. Like vision diffing people as a support was and it's so good, dude. Like if you have a good support, and they know how to vision diff other people, the game is like almost unplayable because they have to respect or they'll die. They have to respect the fact that like they cannot bush check. Um, anyway, enough on wards. I'll show an example of that. So being up on items. This comes with the CS advantage. This comes with killing your lane opponent, right? Um, being up on items is an inherent advantage. If you have 300 AD and the other guy has 100 AD, you're gonna fucking win that fight every single time, right? Like it's the same dealio. Even and then in the micro that looks like I backed and I had enough gold for 2 amp tomes, and the other guy backed and he only had enough. He only had enough to get a Tear of the Goddess, right? You're item diffing him. You have 20 AD or 20 AP more than the other guy, and then you get to come back into lane and use the fact that your abilities do more damage than his, or vice versa, and now you get to punish him harder, right? And now all of your threats that you put in lane against the other lane opponent are now scarier, more likely to lead to a kill. So being up items is good. Excuse me. And then also another advantage is this concept of priority. And priority, the word gets thrown around a lot. The way I use the term priority means I have the first move. Like I'm the white player in chess. It's like I have the first move here to go do something on the map. And that priority, using that priority for roaming or for helping a jungler or for getting objectives like dragon and void grubs in the early game, that can be an incredible advantage. Like if somebody who understands the concept of priority goes against somebody who doesn't, the guy who doesn't understand priority is gonna be like, Why the hell is my jungler dying all the time? Why the hell, like, this guy shoves my wave in and then leaves and I ping, but it doesn't matter because he's already there bot lane and now my bot lane's dead, right? The priority for roaming is crazy important. So we're going to show an example here. So here's an example of me coming back into lane.
I thought Tahm Kench was on our
team. Here, let me get the volume. So here's an example of me coming back into lane, right? And I don't have much of a CS lead. This is a Syndra. This is Ahri into Syndra. I'm playing Ahri, right? And I'm coming back into the lane. My vision is here. Let me move me up here. Okay, so you can kind of see the map now. So I'm coming back into lane, and my immediate thoughts are, okay, what am I going to do between each of these minion waves? Like, that's part of my mental stack here. Is like, what kind of advantages am I building during the laning phase, right? So here we have, I'm gonna just clear a couple minions. And then, okay, so I'm looking at this wave. Syndra did not show on this wave, right? She did not show up on the map. I know my jungler is trying to do dragon right now, okay? This is critical. So she's either backed, just hasn't shown on the wave, like maybe she's just, her character movement is just bad and she hasn't shown up yet, or she's afraid of a gank or something, right? Or she's possibly about to show up at dragon and kill my jungler. Okay, I don't, in this particular scenario, I don't think she was. I think our Kha'Zix was super fed here, at this point already. But see what my instant reaction is. Okay, to seeing her, I insta ping. Say she's not showing up on the map. And then if we listen to my chat here, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking jungle and building advantage leads. This is my mental stack right now. So I'm like, okay, I'm CSing.
Oh, are we getting Prio?
Okay, she shows, and I say Prio. I like, okay, I'm getting Prio here. So like, look, she has to deal with 4 minions, and if we look back at the timer real quick, okay, that's 4 minions, and I'm gonna get like 30. I'm gonna get almost 20 seconds, I think. 709. We'll move this back up. I'm gonna get almost 20 seconds to do whatever I want here, and so my immediate reaction I see as I pan over to the jungle, I pan over to the dragon, like I'm gonna go help with dragon, and then my jungler has been on it for a minute, so he's already got the dragon, which is awesome. It's great. He's thinking about the game. And see how this timing works out to around 7 minutes. Like that's the first dragon of the game, 7 minutes roughly, right? Just to go back to that first couple things, like hey, early game, taking a dragon, 7 minutes. That's kind of roughly when the first dragon gets taken. So what do I do now? So it's like I don't have a wave to show up for. My wave is gonna crash. So I could go to tower. I could walk up to tower and try to harass Syndra. Okay, that might give me an immediate advantage in the lane in terms of damage. But it's also risky. Like I can get QE'd under Q. We're post level 6. I could get QER'd by Syndra under tower by accident. I've screwed up enough times. It happens. And just die under tower. And like by accident, or I could get ganked, or there's a gazillion things that could happen if I walk past the halfway mark in lane where they can see me. Okay, there's a gazillion things that could happen. But so what do I actually decide to do to build an advantage despite the fact that I don't want to take that risk, right? So this is what I end up doing, is I end up coming over here to Raptor, and I'm communicating with my jungler. Okay, and so I got a ward on his Raptors for that, right? And so if we go back, it was 709. It was 709, and now it's 723 in the game. So I had 20 seconds, and now these minions are here. They're meeting. Just then, where I got to build an advantage. So now I have a ward on their Raptors, and Syndra doesn't. Okay, and that's going to come out to be really important. Because honestly, knowing where their jungler is, and just, like, if the jungler shows up on the map, and they're not, like, actively ganking, you just ping the shit out of it. Like, you ping the ever-living shit out of it, and let everyone on the map know, hey, the jungler's right there. Because that is such a big advantage to top lane. If top lane knows that the jungler is doing Raptors, now the top lane has, it's his decision tree has now expanded indefinitely. It's like, okay, now I can solo kill. Now I can try to go for my own vision control. Now I don't like the you have freed, and we're going to go back to the concept, the mental stack. You have now freed temporarily for like a minute, maybe even 30 seconds in this game, where you have now freed the mental stack of where is the enemy jungler off of your entire team. And you did that for like in like the 20 seconds that you got from the minion wave. Think of how crazy that is, right? Think of how insane that is. You just reduced the mental stack load of everyone on your team for 20 seconds, okay? And if you have multiple people doing that in a game, then you guys have a way clearer mental stack. You are way more focused. You're razored in on the game than the enemy team is. And that is a concept, that is a substantial advantage that you can have in your League of Legends games over your opponents. Right? That's how at the highest level, that is how in sports this happens too. It's a really great concept for like regular sports like tennis and other stuff. Um, I love playing tennis. I played tennis since I was like 3. Um, and it really translates really well into League, and it's super helpful. It's way more helpful than you would know, or like than I can express. So then blah blah blah. We're coming to the lane. I think.
Yeah.
So like his minions down here are spawn, or his camp spawn. I think he's gonna show on this
Like she's
ward.
hit me with like 1 E.
Okay, wait. So in the next boom. So we're like, look, he showed on the map there. Give me. So he showed up. Boom. He showed up on the map. I know they're jungler, so he's close. So maybe this is like kind of inting by me walking up here. I'm gonna hit the tower plate, and I think I'm just gonna walk away. That probably should be what I do. But I also know that their jungler is right there. So if I was here, look at this. If you didn't have this entire section of the screen down here, right? Like if you didn't have the vision that Viego was there, now I'm suddenly looking at a completely different world. I'm looking at a completely different game because I'm looking at Syndra and I'm going, okay, I have R, I have Flash, I have Ignite. I know I'm better than this guy. I have a level advantage. And because I think the Syndra was like a platinum player. So I felt it's not actually meaningful, but in a sportsman kind of sense, I felt like I had the advantage because I'm a ranked player, right? It gives you that kind of unearned confidence, which is that's I'm just trying to express how I felt in that moment. I would be looking to dive this guy, okay, but that would be inting here because the Viego is like 2 feet away, okay. So let's see now how that ward helps me out. So instead of diving potentially and just dying, oh, we're lagging. So here I'm talking about the lane because I don't play too much Ari. She's a great champion. I've got like mastery level 4 on her or something. So it's not like my most regular lane, and this is like a skill matchup. So I'm talking with my jungler about it. So she hits me with QE, right? So like right here, she has QE down, right? And so I'm looking immediately. If I didn't have a ward on Viego and know that he was right there, I would probably go for an all in. And honestly, I'm just kind of looking for poke here. So like
W when I W.
if we can look back. So she doesn't have a primary cooldown, so anybody on their right mind would kind of just look at this and go like, okay, she doesn't have E. I'm gonna go dive her because I have all my shit up and ignite pressure. She has TP, so I'm just gonna dive her and kill her. But now I know that the jungler is 2 feet away, and if I do that, I'm gonna die, right? Like most likely. So I just throw out my skill shots. I miss. I'm trash.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Viego's on his red.
And I'm immediately pinging the Viego, right? And so that in this game, nothing happened. Okay, but you got to understand that through the course of multiple games, things are going to happen, and like there's a total world here. There's a decision tree split off splinter world where I try to dive Syndra here and I die, but I don't because there's a ward, right? So that is one of the kind of advantages that you can get in laning phase that will help you win your lane and will help you and it will also contribute back up the ladder to not dying. I didn't die here. I could have died. I could have easily died. I could have REQ'd at interface when she had her E cooldown died, and then totally killed her. And last second under tower, and last second she hits the R button before she dies. I'm instantly half HP. I'm taking a tower shot, and then Viego flashes over the wall. R, I'm dead. Like that's a timeline here, okay, where that could have legitimately happened. So it's super critical to understanding. Like that's one of the advantages in leads that you can build. So now we're gonna take a look at another example, which is at 14 minutes and 8 seconds on the recording. Oh, and the recording is deciding to be wonky again. So we're gonna, all right, we're gonna roll the clip. So this is, I think this is me showing like item advantage, I believe is the reference in this clip. So we're gonna pause it when I hit tab here. I'm gonna hit tab. Okay. So she's up an amp tone on me, and I have boots, so I have a mobility advantage here. I think both of her pots are burned at this point. And I've got a very minor. I've got a 4 CS lead that could be fucking 20 gold or that could be 60 gold. It doesn't really matter. I don't have the only substantial advantage I'm looking at is the fact that I have ignite over her teleport. Okay, and then cooldowns. And also my electrocute. My electrocute is a lot of extra damage, and she has true sight, whatever, which is I think it's like 7%. It's not an electrocute proc, all right? It's to get gold. It's not really to do damage. Even though the damage can be helpful, I'm not discounting it. But right, so we're gonna look into this lane. Okay. Do. She misses her E. I instantly go in. Note that I'm holding charm this whole fight because the charm. If I hit charm, she is dead. Okay. Note that I'm holding charm. I literally, I have multiple opportunities to charm her. I could have insta charmed her. I didn't. I consciously did not. Okay. I'm full HP and she missed E. So her hitting me with R is not even going to bring me to half HP here. Okay, it is going to bring me to half HP, and she hits with 1Q. Okay, but now I'm literally point blank. I cannot miss charm. Okay, and she's blown her R cooldown. She's blown her Q cooldown. Her E is not up. And I think maybe she blew W earlier, but she might have W. I don't die to like W plus 5 or 6 auto attacks is actually what kills me here, and maybe a tower shot. Okay, Q, and then I instantly follow up with the rest of my R, auto attack. Make sure you're always weaving in auto attacks. I get the level up. I get my passive proc, so I don't die to the tower shot. Viego, I know if we look down here, that ward is still, he cleared the ward on his Raptors, but I know that he just went from bot camp, so now he's top side. I know he's in the top side of the jungle. It's a lot harder to rotate from like wolves to go help her than it is from like Raptors to go help her, right? Or to clean up a kill on my end. Okay. So I know I have time, so I immediately shove the wave for tempo. That's another concept. I'm going to go grab the turret plating. Bonk. And I instantly R away because I need to build as much space and time as I can before the Viego walks into my lane. And I'm going to instantly recall. And we're going to go 30 seconds. And then boom. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay. So now when we hit tab and we're in laning phase, okay, we're at 10 minutes into the game, I'm level 9, and if you look down here, I'm level 9, and I have my Q maxed now, and I have R, right? Um, and so that's, I have a level advantage on her. I have my max damage ability, which this is huge because it's a Syndra matchup, so her Q being level 9 is really important for Syndra. So she's not at that power spike yet. And I've got item advantage. So now I'm up the Hex Tech thingy. I don't even remember. Alternator, maybe? Right? And I've matched her in pots, kind of, I guess. Right? And so now I have an advantage at 9 minutes 39 seconds. Right? So that's an example. I screwed up. I think I traded like flash for flash at the like level 2 all in, and that's probably why I didn't kill her at like level 2 or level 3. I think I went for it and I just totally screwed it up. um, but this is like the closest example I have in a recent game to like item diffing. So I come into lane with this item diff. I know I'm up an item, and I can just freely, if you just like follow the lane, boom, she blows E. She like barely chips me with Q, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk in trade, movement speed W. Okay. Notice auto attack first. I throw out the Q because I want to bait her movement. Because if she moves down here, like down towards the jungle, I've not spent E, right? And this is just trading, and I don't think I actually kill her here. But I immediately convert my item advantage with auto attacks, my abilities. She blew a cooldown.
You just have to back.
And so I missed Q, but I hit E, and I made an auto attack, and I got an electrocute proc, and so now we look at the HP difference. She's almost half HP. I'm 3/4 HP. Okay, and I've cleared all the minions, and I'm gonna be able to shove this minion out to then get prio again for another thing, right? So this is in laning phase. This is what you're trying to accomplish. It's not necessarily that you're trying to kill your opponent. It's a great thing if you do, but you're trying to build these advantages. That's the mental stack that you need to be thinking of, is like, what advantages am I getting during this laning phase that I am denying from my opponent? Okay.
He's gonna die.
I'm trying
Right.
to see if I can bait her.
Yeah, so that's some quick examples of the laning phase. Another quick thing, just before we move on to the next page, was the priority for roaming. So because I'm an up an item, in that particular example, right? I have another option now in my decision tree. I now have another option, which is I Q the wave, and I Q W, and I Q and auto attack the wave, and I just shove the wave out immediately into her face. Okay. Which Syndra can kind of match me, but I'm up theoretically. We're talking theoretically here. I'm up an item, which means I can wave clear faster than her, and I have priority. The concept of priority. I have the first move to do something because I can clear the wave faster, theoretically, right? That means that I can then roam bot, or I can roam top, or I can roam to dragon, or I can roam to herald or grubs, right? That is a huge decision tree opener. It gives me more agency in the game, right? And that's a good concept. That gives me more agency in to win a game. So when you're losing a game of League of Legends and it feels like you can do nothing, well, it's because your decision tree has been shrunken down to limited amount of options. Your agency has been reduced in the game, for you to be able to compete and win the game. So these advantages give you agency to win more games. They give you more opportunities because I could shove and I could immediately roam. I could shove and go help a jungler. Um, and the big important thing here is because I'm up an item, I know I'll probably end the ignite. I will probably win the next time we fight. If it was like literally point blank, everybody hits everything. It's Syndra, so like maybe not. That's when like champion mastery comes into play. But the vast majority of times, I can go into their red buff bush that is like up above, like right by mid lane, and I can sit there and pretend like I'm roaming to bot, and when Syndra follows, I have a free EQR ignite combo, and she's dead. Boom. Right there. I have another play I can make that she can't make because I have an extra item. I have extra items on her. I have an item diff on her. That's another important thing to mention. Like the priority for roaming, and it's not just the roaming. It's also the fact that I can beat her in a 1v1 potentially, for free by just sitting in a bush, right? Which is like you go to Faker's name, like his username, hide on bush, right? For like his Smurf or whatever it is, his solo queue account, right? Because it's like a really popular concept. Okay, I realized my recording is around the 45-minute mark already, and as much as I would love to just make this a hour and 45-minute long video, because those are my favorite on YouTube, um, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to cut it right here. And we are going to be probably looking at trading, like actual trading examples and the trading stance, which is a thing that gets covered a lot in Riot Froxon's League Fundamentals 101 on YouTube, UNSCW LOLSOC slash Riot Froxon. Go on YouTube and you'll see other videos of that. We're going to cover that in the next episode. We're going to be talking about how you actually take trades and how minions play into that, and the trading stance and what your micro movements look like in the laning phase to take trades. So that's going to be the next video. So thank you for watching. I hope that this helped somebody. I hope that um, the examples were cool. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. Have a great night.